Mark, the 8-speed is a stepped transmission, not an automated manual.
The 8-speed is a conventional planetary gear type with a conventional torque converter. As John mentioned, though, it's completely redesigned. It's a completely new transmission that offers much better efficiency than its replacement. And it offers, of course, the ability to get more of the power on the road with more gears to choose from.
Nathan?
The new 8-speed is more efficient. Are there numbers available for EPA benefits? You know what the MPG is?
The MPG is actually unchanged for the 2017 model year. What our engineers wanted to focus on was the improved performance aspect with the new 8-speed automatic transmission. So hopefully you guys, we have quite a few 2.0Ts for evaluation today. So hopefully you guys will be able to drive that model in one of the two legs to evaluate the improved performance.
So if the 8-speed is more efficient, is that then going to be part of like a new idea as far as not replacing with the CVTs in the 1.6 and the Rico model?
So, was your question comparing the conventional AT to a CVT, or?
Is the 8-speed basically almost going for replacement? Because if you're going for more efficiency, you use your CVTs for efficiency. Is that 8-speed then trying to replace the CVT, or is that strategy still going forward?
Yeah, so remember the term efficiency simply means the amount of power that goes in through the input shaft and the amount of power that goes to the rear wheels. So if a transmission is 97% efficient, then there's 3% losses, either frictional or heat losses. So efficiency is really power in versus power out. Now, when you look at transmission technology in general, most transmission engineers will tell you that purely from this metric of efficiency, how much power goes in, how much power comes out. Conventional manual will still be the best because basically in top gear, it's just a locked up shaft. In terms of technically, the second most efficient will be a DCT.
That's what I meant. I didn't mean to say CVT, I meant DCT.
No,
Basically,
DCT.
Like your clutch transmission. Is the 8-speed replacing your clutch set?
No, we're going to continue with the development of DCT technology. We're going to expand DCT technology in the future, so we'll have both conventional AT along with DCT technology, and of course we're looking at others as well.
Dave?
Is the manual transmission gone?
Yes, we discontinued the manual transmission on U.S. Sonata models back in 2009 model.
This is not a technical issue. It's really a customer demand issue, and making those available for the customers that want them. It was just becoming very challenging for us when you consider 8 or 9 or 10 colors and several trims and so forth. And then on top of that, several powertrains, and then on top of that, more than one transmission choice. It became virtually impossible for that one customer to find the manual they wanted.
Christy?
Chris, you touched on the interior briefly. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about materials and color. Did you do any updates in those two areas?
A bit. There's a little bit in the sport models or whatever. I mean, Sean can talk about this a little bit more deeply than I possibly can. I think our focus was to enhance the expensive feel to the vehicle and highlight areas that weren't highlighted before that needed highlighting, such as the gauge garnish around the cluster area. And again, shifting things like framing the air conditioning vent versus framing the technology. The radio controls, the HVAC controls, the monitor and things like that. So sort of a shift in priority. So basically taking materials that were highlighting things that maybe weren't so highlightable and then bringing them into the more important areas. And then again, for designers, it's really a lot about proportion. I was speaking with Miles, this morning about sort of this need to and also Gary, we were talking a little bit about, designers are really accustomed to putting lines in, really good lines. Almost every designer can put in a really nice line, but unless you have the engineering behind it, if that line isn't in the right place, it really doesn't count for anything. So I always say a good line in the wrong place doesn't make, much progress, right? So For us, and especially in the center stack area, by sort of lifting up that area and making it a little bit more horizontal feeling, it kind of brings it into more of what I call this sort of sexy rectangle kind of array. If you look at a movie in the 30s and 40s, it's almost a square. The box is like this. Well, we're used to sort of 16:9 formatted in the great areas of movies where it was letterbox and sort of stretched cinemascope kind of thing. There's something about the human being that responds to that golden section, as they call it, that as a designer, from a proportion standpoint, you're always sort of striving for that thing. So what we did with the interior on here is, it's really subtle stuff, but we lifted up that bottom area and really tried to make it a little bit more horizontal, and it's just a bit more appealing.
So another important debate that always goes on is, of course, our engineers and designers, there's a constant push and pull. On one hand, the engineers are focused on human-machine interface, and the way that gets represented in the market is in studies like J.D. Power IQS, where customers rate how easy it is to use the car and how pleasing it is to use the car, or J.D. Power Peel, there's the FAD study. And so, with the 2015 model, there was a very, very strong push on making sure that we did the very best in terms of human-machine interface. And I think the pullback with the refresh model is a recognition that it's okay to have something that's more aesthetically pleasing when it comes to either materials, more metal-like materials, better textures and surfaces, and we can manage those issues when it comes to whether it's reflection of light or the tactile nature of the control. So we're trying to find a better balance of visual and tactile appeal as well as design appeal and still achieve good human-machine interface. And I think that's the push-pull that we always face.
Christine, you were talking about specifically materials too, so I think we can kind of, swing back to that question or whatever as we're maybe driving the cars. And again, John Sean can probably give you a little bit more detail to fill in those blanks.
Thank you.
For you.
John, just a couple of things on.
Oh yeah. Just real quickly on the 2.0T models, I misspoke a little bit earlier when I said there's no change to EPA cycle. From a combined standpoint, it's not changed at 26 miles per gallon. But from a city and highway cycle, city is up 1 mpg from 22 to 23 miles per gallon, and highway is up 1 mpg as well, from 31 to 32. But the combined remains consistent at 26 miles per gallon.
Ron?
Given the well-documented and you just well-discussed phenomenon of the decline of sedan sales, how did this decision to refresh and what you refreshed and when you refreshed, how is that affected by that sort of larger trend in terms of your thinking and planning and what to do 2 years in?
When you think about planners and engineers and designers, there's one school of thought that would say, well, people like a higher seating position, they like a taller roof, and they like that over-the-road view. And so every vehicle should be jacked up, every vehicle should have bigger wheels and a bigger wheelhouse gap, and every seat should be raised. But at the end of the day, that's really not true. So I think one of the mistakes we quickly make is we try and move towards the middle. And I think as designers and engineers and planners, we have to think about what are the things that people love about sedans, what are the things that people love about CUVs or SUVs or pickups, and how do we magnify those things that people love and make those categories better? How do we make the categories better so they're going to have their own natural following? There's always going to be a group of people that want all their stuff stored in the back of the car securely, and they're never going to be comfortable with an open space like a CUV has. There's always going to be people that want the durability image of a CUV that stands tall and it looks like it can go over rough rocks and rough roads. So we need to make sure that we do our very best on each side instead of moving towards the middle, which is a very common kind of a knee-jerk reaction. And so I think this minor change, or this midlife freshening, I should say, is actually quite major in terms of our sheet metal and transmission and technology investment. But what it reflects is trying to move the midsize sedan to a place that's a better product, a better midsize sedan, rather than trying to make it better in other aspects where it's never going to be good enough.
So if you forgive me to just state what you're saying another way, if this is correct, you could have decided to make this look more like a crossover if you wanted to. I mean,
Sure, we could have made an all-track version and put over fenders on it. You could
Yeah,
have
I mean, you
all-
could have made it, and other car makers have done that. They've taken sedans and kind of tweaked them here and there to make them look less sedan and more crossover, where in fact, they haven't really changed that much, but you've decided to sort of intensify the sedan feel with this. Is that a statement of what?
I think we intensified the four-door coupe, which was originated in the 2010-2011 model year, which was so successful for us, and it really broke ground and really put Hyundai on the map as one of the first to do that, right? And if you look in the landscape these days, you'll see most of the four-door coupes are rear-wheel drive packages. Everyone is sort of responding to this lower, wider, more compact upper greenhouse area planted on a shoulder-bodied kind of car, right? And I think we proved with the 2010 model and then through with the 2015 model year and the 7th generation Sonata that still is relevant. It's a valid formula for a front-wheel drive vehicle, that it can do that. Packaging-wise, you're bringing the occupants towards the front of the vehicle, which really enables that rear portion of the car to really slow back and be as sleek as possible. And that, in combination with bringing the power to the middle of the car, slimming up the headlights, and making a more technical statement, a more technological statement that might attract more, say, younger buyers and folks that are really attuned to the technology side of things. The car is more relevant to that sort of crowd. But in terms of Camel designing this thing or Frankensteining this thing into something that it is not, I don't think would be in the best interest of any company to sort of lie to its customer about its identity.
Okay, oh, two more. Joe, there's his hand up.
Do you expect the refreshed version of the Sonata to kind of stop the erosion of sales in this, of your sales in this segment?
So whether we expect this refresh to stop the erosion of sales for our Sonata model in this segment?
Yeah.
I think definitely what we're trying to do is we're trying to reinvigorate our own sales momentum with this model. And that doesn't necessarily mean increasing sales. That means in this very competitive environment, that's the mid-sized car segment, if we could maintain our share, I think is some of the goals that we have with this refresh.
So I think the key in the future is to make sure that we maintain flexibility. As I was trying to show in the pickup analogy, that the market's going to ebb and flow. If gas prices go up, certainly sedan category volume will most likely rise with it. If gas continues to be inexpensive, it will continue to be more of an energizer for larger vehicles like CUV and SUV. So we know things are going to change. It's just a matter of how do we build our capacity so we have more flexibility. Right now we build the Santa Fe Sport and the Sonata alongside each other in our Alabama plant. So it's giving us more flexibility as we brought that product into that plant a couple of years ago. It's given us more flexibility to go back and forth as the market changes. So I think key point is just to maintain the ability to be more responsive.
My answer to that question is yeah. Simple yes. From a design standpoint, this is our job, right? And to bring excitement to everything that we do.
Good answer. Okay.
Talk to me a little bit about packaging and option feature availability. I saw in the Sport and the Ultimate Limited models are a little bit more affordable than before.
Yes.
Are there any features that are missing, say like a sunroof, panoramic sunroof or something like that? And are those available as a standalone option?
We don't offer standalone options on our models. That kind of goes away from the streamlined packaging plan that we try to incorporate. As far as feature that is not available on the 2018 panoramic sunroof is not available, along with heated rear seats are not available on the top spec models.
Okay.
But again, a lot more feature enhancements. We added heated steering wheel. We have a full list on the USB drive of the specific features. But also lane keep assist is now available. So it's not completely all additive. There's a little bit of subtraction there as well.
So if I could mention just very quickly, you brought up a very, very good question. Just two kind of key initiatives of our company. One is a recognition that there's two kinds of satisfaction in the shopping for a new vehicle. One is the satisfaction of configurability. I can go on the internet at night and I can get every little spec that I wanted, the exact color, the exact interior trim. I get the Navi without the blind spot detection. I can get every spec the way I want. But the other half of satisfaction is actually going to a retail outlet and finding that car. And so every manufacturer will eventually learn that we have to make sure we balance those two satisfaction levels. We can easily make standalone specs for everything. We easily do that. But the chances of finding that car in a showroom are very small. And so then the customers are very dissatisfied, and of course they walk over to a competitive make and find what they want perhaps. So we need to really think about that balance. And frankly, I've been pushing very hard for our company to really revolutionize the way we package cars and think about a better way to have a better chance of offering the product at the retail outlet that the customer wants, and do it through offering better value. So maybe there's one extra spec the customer wouldn't have chosen, but we can offer a value proposition. They'll say, gee whiz, I didn't really pay much more for that, so sure, I'll take it. So we need to make sure that we have a better balance. The other side of it is one of the things John worked on very hard with our pricing group was to identify and find where we were weak. So if you look at our share performance by price zone, so we could actually slice our share performance by $100 increments and see how we're doing relative to other mid-sized cars. And we actually saw that we were rather weak in the mid-zone, the 25K price zone for Sonata. Other manufacturers are doing a better job in that area. So John focused a lot of his effort on building up the spec and building up the value in this 25K zone, which is really all about the Sport. So the Sport is a direct antidote for our share weakness in this 25K zone, where other manufacturers are doing a better job in terms of overall price and spec. And so we wanted to offer a very compelling look, a very compelling spec list, and a very compelling price in this zone where there's really a very large share of mid-sized transactions taking place, and we weren't getting our fair share. So that's really what this Sport trim is all about, is to try and directly address that area where we can do more.
Last one.
What are you focusing on in terms of marketing and advertising, since you have all these little minor tweaks?
So we are going to do a major marketing launch in this product. That'll be later in the year. So it's a big investment for us. I can't give you an exact figure, but I can say that for a midlife product, the figure is closer to what we'd have for a new launch. I can say that.
George, can you wait? You good?